My name is Dr. Eliana Ramirez. I am the project director for the Crisis and Recovery Enhancement Care TA Center. I'm thrilled to have you here today for a presentation by Tara Lawyer of Impact Justice, who is going to present on the mental health needs post-rapid release from jails and prisons. So it's important always to start off by thanking our funder, Department of Healthcare Services, DHCS. I am connecting to you through the Center for Applied Research Solutions. What we're about to share here does not necessarily represent the opinions of our funder or of CARS. So what is the CARE TA Center? Well, we are a newly funded center. We just started up in July 2020, so we're just a few months out the gate. We provide training and technical assistance to the Mental Health Services Act funded county behavioral health programs across the state of California to support the crisis continuum of care and justice diversion work. We are really honored to work as a collaborative. We have several partner agencies that you're probably familiar with. They are big names in the field of crisis continuum of care and justice diversion. Recovery International, also known as RI, is a partner, as is the National Association of Mental Illness NAMI California chapter. We also have C4 Innovations, formerly known as the Center for Social Innovation, as well as the Research and Action Center at Impact Justice. And Impact Justice is the agency that Tara Lawyer joins us from today. And we are also fortunate to work with Stanford Youth Solutions. So we provide a variety of training and technical assistance. As you can see on this slide, our work involves everything from discussion hours and research publications to webinars and newsletters. We have an annual conference that's coming up at the end of this year. We have individual coaching sessions that are available. If you were to go to our website, there is a TA form that you could fill out there. Would be fabulous. We welcome you to connect with us also by accessing our resource library. And importantly, if your agency has resources that you would like to have shared on our resource library, we'd really appreciate you sending them to us. Our resource library is building quickly, and we would really like to be a platform to share your work with the field as well. So the first question is, are you working with people who have recently been released from jail or prison? Okay, so it looks like we are about 85% have said yes, and 15% have said no. Thank you. The next question is, what do you see as the most pressing need following release from jail or prison? The choices are housing, COVID-19, mental health services, employment, or other. Okay, we've got about 71% have indicated housing. Interesting. And we've got the next is employment services at 16% and mental health services at 13%. So the next question is, which populations of recently released people have you worked with? 87% working with men, 60% working with women. We have 30% with youth and 27% with LGBTQIA folks and 17% with elderly people. So I am excited to introduce to you our presenter for today's presentation. Tara Lawyer finds purpose in working to improve the justice system. She is the program manager for the Homecoming Project, an innovative reentry housing program at Impact Justice. Her role includes matching eligible participants to compatible houses while securing a support network for each arrangement. Being formerly incarcerated herself, Tara has been an advocate for incarcerated people for more than a decade as a peer health educator, a certified drug and alcohol counselor, a youth diversion specialist. She is a past chair of the Beyond Incarceration panel with the Central California Women's Facility. She also developed numerous curricula for the therapeutic workshops and groups that empower and change the lives of people in California's state prisons. Tara is a musician, graphic designer, and public speaker. She serves as a spokeswoman for the Drop the Life Without the Possibility of Parole campaign. She was featured on A Living Chance and Wanda's Picks podcasts. Tara has also been at the forefront of restorative justice efforts, both inside prison and beyond. She interned at American Friends Service Committee's Healing Justice Project, volunteers with the California Coalition for Women's Prisoners, and is a Next Generation Fellow at Center of Juvenile and Criminal Justice and the National Institution for Criminal Justice Reform. She joins Impact Justice with undergraduate degrees in business management and social and behavioral science. Tara is from the Bay Area. It is really an honor to invite Tara to begin speaking here. We are thrilled that she is willing to share with us her expertise. So with that, I will exit stage left, as it were, and hand the platform over to Tara. Thank you so much for being here today, Tara.
Thank you so much for all of the invites and all the accolades. I mean, I am just so honored to be here and to present to everyone that's here. Thank you for taking the time out. I know that Zoom fatigue is real, so I'm going to try my best to make sure that everyone is getting a lot of good information, but also making sure that I don't leave you guys with so much heaviness as we go through these topics. And it's real, right? These are really heavy realities that we're facing. And I'm excited to cover quite a bit about reentry needs pre-COVID and post-COVID. For myself, I'll start, you can go into the next slide just so we can get started on sort of how I even came to this work. I am formerly incarcerated, and at the age of 18, I found myself being sentenced to a life sentence. And I served 15 years in custody. And while that was a really tumultuous time in my life, I really wanted to walk away from prison with quite a bit of a purpose, a learning experience, and a way to give back. Because what I noticed more so than anything was this sea of brokenness inside of prison. And what I mean by that was majority of individuals that are in custody right now throughout our California prisons and throughout the world are suffering from a mental health condition. So many people oftentimes look at individuals with a lot of stereotypes and stigmas without really understanding. I'm among colleagues here that understand the mental health challenges, especially working with this population as they are coming home. So I knew inside that there were so many different concerns, and I wanted to add solutions to the existing problems that I saw among me. So I worked a lot with the clinicians inside of the prison. I worked a lot with the wardens and upper management administration to sort of create more programs that were therapeutic in their nature. I knew that there were some gaps in the mental health system in custody, in addition to streamlining that service and those services for individuals upon their release. I worked a couple of times with pre-release instructors that were helping individuals get prepared, working with the parole service agents inside, and really understanding sort of the operational procedures for individuals when they're getting ready to get released. And I've seen quite a bit of some gaps. So going back to my own story, I had to go through the Board of Parole hearings to get released. And one of the requirements was that I was able to secure housing before I was let out. Now, this was a challenge in and of itself because a lot of the work had to be done by myself. No internet access inside of prison. I would actually have to go into the law library, look inside the yellow books that were there, and locate housing options for myself. There are some resources within the parole service agents, but you still have to contact them. So I recall writing over 100 letters about 6 months before I was even going before the board to all these different housing programs, hoping that I could secure a bed. Now, what I learned from the inside, working myself out, was that I secured a bed at a residential treatment facility in San Francisco. And I wanted to come back to the community where I had the most support. Family out here, I had a job lined up out here. So I really wanted to secure a bed somewhere in the East Bay or the San Francisco Bay Area. So I secured a bed, and I was super, super excited and really, really nervous to come home in 2017. But on that fateful day in November 15th, 2017, I was released into a residential treatment facility off of Treasure Island. Now, what you guys can all imagine was going to be the most exciting day was actually riddled with a lot of anxiety. And I say that because I was really concerned with, what will my community accept me back? Will I be ostracized? Would I be rejected? Would I even be able to get all the things needed to embark on my second chance? And I really wanted to position myself to give back to my community. So those things were at the forefront of my mind, but I didn't know if the community would welcome me or embrace me. So long after the intoxication of excitement wore off, of being home, I realized that there was quite a few things off at this residential treatment facility. Number one, I do not have a substance abuse issue from my past at all. And so I was taking up a bed from someone who may have benefited from substance abuse treatment at this residential treatment facility. And yet, because I was ordered by the board to find housing, they considered this home a transitional housing program. But what I found was that this was actually designed for individuals that are suffering from substance abuse and phasing them out into a program that's very restrictive. So reintegration and reentry transition was not a part of this model. It was a very cookie cutter approach towards care. And I was having to fall in line with that. So I had a blackout period where I could not communicate, talk to anyone, or leave the facility for the first 2 weeks. From that phase, I was going into the treatment phase. Now we're talking 30 plus hours a week of taking a lot of treatment classes that I'm certified as a drug and alcohol counselor to teach. So still being happy to be home, being grateful to be home. I really wanted to do everything I could to even enhance some of the services there. So being very, active and supportive and hoping to boost morale among the other women that were in the treatment facility was my main goal. But I couldn't help being concerned about, here I am after 15 years of being incarcerated, and now I'm out. I couldn't even accept a job that I had because of this model until 3 months after I was already in the program. So I know exactly what those challenges were pre-COVID. I know that regardless of being free, I still had so much to do. I needed to get my ID because essentially I was a ghost. I needed to secure income, but I couldn't because of the way that this program was set up. I needed to secure clothing. I had $200 gate money, and that was about it. I did have family and friends that wanted to come and see me, but in fact, I was able to visit them more while I was in prison than I was while I was in that treatment facility. So I couldn't help, the professional side of me could not help but say, we got to do better. And I really had a strong vision towards what that model would look like. We can go into the next slide and I'll cover a little bit about some of the overall challenges that we see common among populations that I fall into and populations all throughout California. Number one is the poor access to housing for parolees. Now, we all know mass incarceration is slowly starting to become a hot topic, but if we really understand why, the war on drugs and when that increase in incarceration started taking place, we found that many of the government entities wanted to sort of have a landing pad, have some housing options for people when they come home. So we've seen an increase of sober living homes and residential treatment facilities and halfway houses, specific to substance abuse treatment, because most everyone was going inside prison for drug-related charges. Now, what has happened since then is that they have repurposed these housing options for parolees, but each of those housing options, whatever contract it is that they get, is oftentimes restricted to a certain eligibility criteria, which includes some, excludes others, and they vary throughout, right? Some are only for men, some are only for women. They do not welcome the LGBTIQ community. And so we just know the various different gaps that are in play. specifically towards the long-termers. So individuals who have served 10 plus years in custody, we found that those individuals specifically are restricted a little bit more with options. Most of the housing programs that are currently available are for the non-nons, right? So the non-violent, the non-strikers, the non-serious crimes, and they're for short-termers. So we found that the long-termers are more at risk for homelessness, and that's overall, if you've been in custody, it's 10 times more likely to become homeless than anybody else. I highlighted a little bit through my personal experience about the lack of individualized care, and we're seeing this continuously happen throughout California as well. The lack of individualized care, we see a lot of repurposing of these programs. A lot of the service providers are sort of having to provide what they're given, give what they have based upon resources and lack of funding. So it doesn't really get specialized, and it doesn't get really individualized. And so people have to sort of take what they can get, and they're oftentimes not really getting their individualized needs assessed or addressed. I highlighted already the increased risk of homelessness, and that really goes to the lack of housing resources. And I saw that a lot of people in the poll showed that housing is like the #1 thing that people coming home from prison are trying to secure prior to their release and while they're already out in the community. And this just shows the shortage that we have and the great need for us to have a solution that is sustainable. We are seeing a lack of supportive reentry systems, the way that we communicate with each other, the way that we are able to cross-reference successes and challenges among our services and the population that we are serving. And we oftentimes do not understand the implications for post-incarceration syndrome. This is something that I'm going to definitely highlight a little bit more, and they oftentimes mimic the symptoms from post-incarceration syndrome, oftentimes mimic a couple of the common mental health concerns that I'm going to highlight a little bit later. So I want to talk a little bit about the correctional mental health system. And the reason why I think this is important is because anything in black and white related to CDCR looks amazing. What actually happens in practice is oftentimes a little bit more it's a little strained, so to speak. So I want to talk a little bit about the correctional clinical case management system. It was designed for those that have moderate mental health needs. Both the public and the private facilities usually should have proper services to accommodate these social justice concerns. Unfortunately, the public correctional facilities have to be prepared and equipped to accommodate and provide treatment to incarcerated persons who require services with those mental health or disabilities developed before, during, and after incarceration. The reason why I emphasize that is because the after is where we're all focusing all our efforts on right now. And that is where I see a large gap when it comes to mental health services. So the correctional clinical case management consists of a couple of tiers, and I'm going to highlight those right now through the enhanced outpatient program, some of the therapeutic programs, and some of the self-help programs as well. And all of these are rehabilitative in nature, but the problem is through this, the triple CMS system is where do they fall off, and where do we lose some of the care to be continued when it comes to individuals that are getting released. I can't tell you how many clients I have worked with who was seeing a clinician, who was getting treatment, who had medication, and then once they were released, they were just dropped off into the world and lost all their services and support. And so this is a major concern for me and all of us, right? The enhanced outpatient program inside of prison is a mental health outpatient program whose goal is to identify issues preventing a person from programming in the mainstream. So these are really high-level individuals. They do have a primary clinician that they meet with weekly, and a psychiatric person who they meet with monthly. Excuse me. They attend some assigned groups every week, and these also consist of those therapeutic programs that we're now seeing the mental health system in prison start to do a little bit more of the support groups, of the talking groups, of healing circles and things along those lines. So we're seeing an increase in that as well. Majority of the self-help programs was sort of my wheelhouse while I was inside working closely with administrative staff to bring in outside CBOs and outside help, these self-help programs. And these are where anyone in the general population could attend. They can do some reflection writings. They can do some really deep, good work here. And so this is sort of the landscape for the correctional mental health system. And it can be very chock full depending upon the institution. It could be chock full with a lot of different programming and opportunities for individuals to address their mental health needs. My biggest concern, again, is once they are released, they don't have that level of support. They don't have that treatment. They don't have that care. And this is what we're here to talk about all day today, right? We want to find solutions for sure. So some of the most common things that we're finding with our clients and with individuals in this population is the post-traumatic stress disorder and also the post-incarceration syndrome, which oftentimes same symptoms, same things, a little bit different, than post-traumatic stress disorder, but an individual that's coming home from prison, you would think they're returning to their natural habitat. But in fact, the institution has caused some anomalies that have taken place, and they present themselves in so many different ways for every individual. Speaking to myself, personally, I had a big fear out of nowhere for elevators. I just thought about the door closing, and this is all totally related to imprisonment, the door closing and never opening again, and me being stuck in this box. It is totally related to prison, and that was a symptom from my post-incarceration syndrome. Another thing was I had an acute anxiety attack several times anytime I went to a restaurant or a food place where I had too many options for me to choose from. It was very difficult to figure out what I wanted to eat when there were so many options. So I had information overload, sensory overload, and all of those different things caused me an increased level of anxiety. And so we're seeing that a lot with our participants. I have calls all the time from our clients that say, I can't sleep. I don't know how or why, but I feel like if I go to sleep, I'm going to miss out on something that I've already missed out on for so many years while I was incarcerated. I kind of want to ask the audience really quickly, and I'll open up my chat here. Are there other mental health concerns that you have seen popped up with the clients that you're currently working with? I would love to see you guys enter those into the chat. Any disorders or syndromes that I have not listed here? Definitely depression. Yep, I see that a lot as well. Survival guilt, right? Is coming home, you kind of have this depression about who you left behind. I too experienced depression, which was sort of in line with my own generalized anxiety disorder. Family relational issues, definitely. And that family relational issue oftentimes is not knowing where you fit in with your family, the whole reintegration of getting back into your family. Several things happen, right? An individual comes home, they try to regain a particular role in their family that they were once owning, and in their absence, someone else sort of stepped up to those responsibilities. So we see that there's that struggle of where do I fit in now? So I appreciate you sharing that as well. Yep, schizophrenia. Yes, and in Imperial County, we have issues with medication support that they're unable to get once released due to no insurance. And this is the gap, right? We see that, inside of custody, they have all of this support. They have a primary clinician. They have, they're getting so much medication. They're getting so much support. They're, sort of incubated in this ideal system. And then they come home, and how do they get entered into that system? And how do we streamline that process? I'm seeing that as well. Bipolar, abandonment. Yep. My department at our jail is mostly concerned about SMI, psychotic disorders due to the current influx of 1370s and lack of placement for severely mentally ill. Definitely. So we have these individuals that are sort of being just dropped off into the community without any buffer of support and sort of left to their own devices. Whereas if we were able to somehow, join forces with our own services together, we would be able to strengthen our response to this. But that's where I'm going to lead on to my next question for you guys before I talk a little bit about the work we do with the Homecoming Project. And that is what my other question to the audience is how are you guys getting your clients? Are your clients being referred to you through a parole agent? Are they walk-ins? Are you getting contacted from anyone at CDCR before they are released that you have a client that may be, yes, a warm handoff for sure, a warm handoff, and a discharge plan, absolutely. So that's my question is how are you getting your clients that are formerly incarcerated? Referred by the nurse at the parole agent office, okay, parole officers. Anyone getting called about clients before they are released? Walk-ins. Okay, Selena talked about, yes, she does through the coordinated entry system. Perfect. Okay, great. Great. Perfect. Clients calling directly. So it's just a variety of ways that people are entering into your system and getting some care. And oftentimes not coming with insurance, even though in CDCR before they're released, that is something that they do. They fill out their Medi-Cal paperwork before they're released. But when they're coming home, sometimes that Medi-Cal paperwork just gets lost in the wind and they have to start from scratch all over again. All right. Thank you everyone for sharing your experiences with how you are receiving your clients. We can move on to the next slide. And I want to sort of button up the psyche of all this heavy reality that we have to face day in and day out when it comes to the reentry challenges. So I want to highlight the Homecoming Project. This is a one-of-its-kind program. Our president, Alex Buzansky, back in 2015-16, had a cup of coffee and just was looking around as Airbnb was taking off and said, you know what, there are so many housing options without even having to like build up a whole new building and create housing. There's housing in our midst, right? There's homes out there that have extra bedrooms in them. And what if we could pay a host to house a participant that's coming home from prison? We chose a particular population because we saw a large gap in those individuals who have served long-term sentences. So anyone who has served over 10 years in custody, that's federal or state prisons, we will begin intaking them while they're in custody. We match them with a host before they're even released, hopefully before they're released. Oftentimes we do get people who have been released and are still experiencing housing insecurities. And so we provide 6 months of housing in a host home for all of our participants. We launched this in 2018 of August, and we've been placing individuals all throughout Alameda County and Contra Costa County since then. Each one of our participants are assigned a community navigator who does their case management, who does their needs assessment. This is the individual with lived experience as well, and also certification and trauma-informed care. They have a lot of experience with being able to address individualized needs. They work on their reentry plan. They make it individualized. Again, there's some required assignments for reintegration, for optimizing their reintegration. But really, we want to, produce some self-agency and self-efficacy in our participants. So having them set their own short-term goals, we work to help them reach those. And it doesn't matter how outlandish it is. If you want to write a book, we're going to do what we can to connect you in maybe a writing project or something. But most of the time we see individuals just wanting to rebuild their life, right? So making sure that they are able to get a car, making sure that they're able to soon buy their own, rent their own apartment so they can have their son or daughter live with them or live with their partner. It's very much so just the basic needs of rebuilding a life after incarceration. We provide ongoing program support to both our host and our participants. And this is done through training. This is done through educational guides. We do a lot of orientation. We're just really hands-on. I think that is why our program has been so successful, is not only are we thought we were just going to be providing housing. What we found is that we're really creating a community relationship. We're enhancing the way that people are reentering their communities. That reintegration is taking on a whole new definition through this experience with Homecoming Project up to this point. And we continue to see quite a bit of more support. We are providing all of our participants with their own cell phone with 6 months of paid unlimited talk and text service. And we, right now during COVID, we provide them with a Chromebook so that they're not feeling left out of the virtual world that we have all had to adapt to in these times. Each of our participants receive a care package. They receive one initially when they first come into the program, and then there's some ongoing additional care that comes in the form of food, grocery deliveries, gift cards, and some hygiene items to make sure all their needs are met. And we provide the entire household with COVID-19 PPE supplies and ongoing testings so that everyone is safe and secure. We can go into the next slide because I definitely want to highlight some of the reentry paths in comparison, right? This is huge. So looking at a typical on the top of this graph here, you can see what the journey looks like for an individual that is coming home before COVID, right? They're given $200 gate money and transportation to a bus station. I would like to talk about an individual who does not have a strong support system. Oftentimes, people who have a support system have somebody that's willing to pick them up from the prison and I'm going to do my time check. Yeah, they want to pick them up from the prison and take them to the county where they have to report to their parole agent as well. But for an individual that does not have a strong support system, which are the individuals we oftentimes are placing in the Homecoming Project, we see that they're only given the $200 gate money, which has been the same for a couple of decades now. If we would have considered the cost of increase in living, the increased cost of living and inflation, this would be a little bit over $2,000 in today's rate, but instead it's still at $200. And so that's not a lot to purchase the clothing and the food that you may need. Oftentimes we see participants enter our program with the clothing that is on their back and having very little resources to get food and clothing. So, food insecurities, clothing insecurities, housing insecurities are often something that we see with this population as they're coming home. But they'll begin reaching out to emergency shelter homes and halfway houses and sober living homes to secure housing, if not beforehand. But I can tell you guys, I know firsthand that a lot of people who do not have a home to identify before they're released will oftentimes write down the liquor store's address that's in the neighborhood where they have to report back to their parole. And that's really sad. It's our reality that the California Department of Corrections doesn't have a system so strong in place that they would allow somebody to just report an address all willy-nilly anywhere, knowing that they're going to be homeless, because their release date is here. So it's almost like kicking them out of one system and just hoping that they fare well on their own. The next step that we see is someone needing to get an ID. because essentially you're a ghost until you are able to get an ID and show who you are and establish yourself. You need your ID even to apply at the Social Security office. So going to the Social Security office, you can get some general assistance and some food stamps. If you need communications, if there's an Obama phone or some type of a phone that is, government supported, then you can receive that as well. And then the average person will begin searching for jobs, attending job fairs, or applying to some of those open positions. But COVID put a whole new spin on everything. And we saw quite a bit of a frantic cry from all CBOs, including ourselves, when we got on the phone with CDCR, who said, we're getting ready to release 3,500 people immediately. And we need your support. We need your transportation support. We need your housing support. We need anything and everything that you have to help support this population as they come home. Of course, we're going to support them. That's what we do. That's why we're a nonprofit. That's why we, work these long hours, because we want to save lives. We want to improve our community. We want to make it safe. And yet they had no resources. So we had to scramble really hard. And if it wasn't for, us strengthening our partnerships with each other, us being able to, work with private foundations and raise some COVID emergency funds, this would have never, a lot of people would have fell through the cracks. A lot more would have fell through the cracks, because people are still suffering to this day. But we did not see an increase in any of the gate money. The bus services at one point were suspended or reduced, right? We saw that with the BART. We saw that with a lot of the buses. Majority of those stores were closed. And so people couldn't even get clothing or food, especially if they didn't have a phone yet to even order DoorDash, because that at one point was the only thing and the only way that someone can get food. They have $200. So how are they going to get anything, clothing or food? But the limited resources when it came to emergency shelters and halfway homes and sober living homes was just heartbreaking to see. Everyone was strained, everyone was struggling. And this was, it's sort of leveling itself out, but I still see this as a crisis for this particular population. And while the DMV has since opened, we're finding that they're not accepting the appointments any longer. So we still have a larger delay with our participants in getting their ID. I'll tell you this, one thing is our participants were usually able to get employment within 2 weeks pre-COVID. And now we're seeing that get pushed back a little bit more, because as we know, there's widespread unemployment in California right now due to COVID. The retail and service industries are just shuttered. This is a national economic crisis as well. And if they can't get their ID, or if their ID is delayed, that delays them in getting assistance from, Social Security office with general assistance and food stamps. And if you can't get an ID, or if that's delayed, there's any additional services in regards to communication, or even to be able to apply for a job is going to be delayed. So all of these are holistic. They rely on each other to assist an individual. So really working hard to make sure that we're safeguarding the needs of people coming home from prison is our top goal, for sure. One of my next slides were just a couple of different partnerships that I think we can all strengthen and think about solutions-wise of how do we strengthen. I know that somebody mentioned the coordinated entry system, but not everyone has. Everyone has to be sort of certified in order to even be registered to get into that coordinated entry system. Is that correct? And does anyone here have had to set that up themselves?
Hi, Miss Lawyer.
Hi.
My name is Carissa, and I have my coworker here, Linda. She could probably explain a little bit more. We work at Home Start, which is a nonprofit organization for the homeless here in San Diego. And a lot of our programs, we get referrals from what you were talking about. We typed that, the coordinated entry system. So I'm gonna have Linda talk a little bit. She knows more about the system than I do.
Great. Thank you so much, Krista.
Hi, so with the coordinated entry system, most of the clients are VI SPDATed, which means that they have a scale that they are on for homelessness.
Got it.
So that's how they get into the coordinated entry system. And then once they're in there, we kind of put them in a place where they either get permanent supportive housing, transitional housing, and then that's how they're put into the system. And then we know how to house them. So some of the clients that we do house are coming from prison. So we are able to house some of them that are coming in. Yeah, they're either on probation or parole, and we're able to do that. And we do have a home host also here at Home Start.
Awesome. So the coordinated entry system that you guys are a part of is specific to addressing the homeless needs of your clients,
Yes,
not the mental health needs.
well, mental health as well.
Yeah.
Because most of them are coming in with mental health issues.
And then how do you get them to that county's behavioral care system or services?
So there is, it's called VI SPDAT. So they're SPDATed, and then they're graded on, you have a score that you have. If you score above 10 or lower than 10, then you go into a certain program. So.
Okay.
So they get a mental health assessment first.
Yes.
And then based on their score, they're referred to the different programs. And we also have us as case managers. We go into the software that we use and we can refer them ourselves to the different mental health programs. So since all their personal information is already in our system, we can essentially just click on a program and match them to the right program. And when that system opens it up, they'll already have all the clients' assessment, personal information, documentation, everything like that. So it's like a sharing system that we use throughout our county.
Perfect. That's a good. And are you seeing a lot of people get their needs met, or do you still see gaps? Are you seeing any gaps, like individuals who is being left out?
I would say it's a pretty good system. The only gap is I wouldn't say it's so much always with like county. The gap would just be like the amount needed. So like, I'm sure that you experienced and other people on here experience, beds get full really fast. They also do it not by first come, first serve, but by priority. So what does that mean? For us, priority is person who has 3 kids, another person might consider priority bipolar,
Right.
So I would say that's the gap, is just purely waiting. And just the need is so high for so many people. That not everyone can get a bed, not everyone can get a house, not everyone can get a therapy appointment the next day,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. That's really comprehensive. Is there any other gaps in other counties that we're seeing? Any other counties on the call want to kind of represent how they receive their mental health clients?
Hi, yes, my name is Holly Crum, Retrain the Village. Hi, East Palo Alto and Central Valley. The mental health clients are vetted from CDCR and the county into Retrain the Village pre and post. Due to the vetting system that I have in place, I send out a packet to the individual who may need a board packet or some type of support exiting the prison system. And from my knowledge, most people don't say, especially at the 20-year, if they've done 20 years, they're real quiet and they don't really say anything about their mental health. It's something that you see later. But I work with the team of therapists that will come in and help, because I believe that if you snapped, you can snap back. And so to treat everybody equally is to give them the opportunity to snap back. You know, the mental health elation that I have at 2415, they understand that my guys who are coming in don't need to be browbeaten about what has happened. You know,
Right.
we need to have a fresh start. There's been a lot of lessons learned within the incarceration, and we know it's not a pretty picture. We know that the injustice within that, within the process, can make you go crazy. And a lot of people take psych meds while they're in there just to go to sleep and sleep it off.
That's true.
You know, the reality of it all is to address it.
Yeah.
And that way, I have a group called 4Cs: care, compassion, connectedness, and consistency. So I really jumped on to say, you know, I'm glad to be a part of this group. We're so underfunded, those
Yeah.
who are on the ground doing what we need to do. But as a collective in the CES system, I know a lot about it. The coordinated entry system should be infused within our community, because then we don't drop anybody off. We will have some place for them to go. If they move from East Palo Alto to Southern California, we'll
Yep.
have that linkage to
Exactly.
whereas we don't lose them underneath the same umbrella, but it's primarily for homeless. So now we have mental health, re-entry, homeless, and substance abuse, all in one person.
And you mentioned before that you guys there at your organization is
Mhm.
actually doing your intake. You mentioned you guys solicit to CDCR to get the
Mhm.
clients,
Mhm.
so no
Pre
one's
and
contacting
post.
you.
No, and that's another thing that's not good, is that, you know, here in the Silicon Valley, they call it now, not East Palo Alto anymore. We're in the
Yeah.
Silicon Valley.
Yeah, that's true.
There's so many avenues to spin up, and then the cost of living is allowing the guys to make $35-40 an hour. A lot of their certificates that they're coming home with are being utilized too as well, and the jobs that they like.
Of course, yeah.
So yeah, so that's been a 2 thumbs up. So when COVID came for us, I have a virtual classroom already set up for them when they come home. So we work pre and post, even though we may work post and CDCR refers or whatever. There's also a pre-release situation
Yeah.
that kind of helps them enter with positive attitude, and some even divert from family, like, no, I'm not going to go there first. I'm going to come over here to retrain the village. Then I'll refuse yourself back in. And that makes it excellent for the rapid rehousing piece, because you got them up, you got them clean. They're staying clean. They're in a safe place. They have the freedom to, you know, get to court. I mean, not court, but to work and to job train for 11 weeks. Excellent job, save their money, and then
Yeah.
and then get the soft skills with family reunification as well. So
Perfect.
the coordinated entry, what we were speaking about, needs to be a transferable method, to where if you've been in jail, county jail, whatever, for the past 6 months, prison, and really most of your life you served in prison somewhere from foster care,
Yeah.
14 out of 24 years, you got 10 years, you're only 17 years old. So I need to come to you at 17 years old. I don't need to
Yep.
come to you as a grown person, because you're not grown yet. You're still 17.
Very true.
And then allow them to build themselves up. So that's what we do at Retrain the Village, but that coordinated entry system we need to adopt, look at, train, and you do need to have one certified person, because when you're reporting back to the state or via SPDAT and Clarity, you have to have that person have every bit of information they can within 48 hours. Okay, so don't let nobody fool you. You need that accurate, so that once it goes into the system, it'll take you more time to change out that information than it is just to get everything in, and then everyone else can share. So that's where we're lacking. I love this group. Thank you all for attending, because this way we can come together and we'll know where they are. See,
Yeah.
they know where the homeless is. We don't know where all our guys and girls are,
Right.
you know, and
Just
to
out there.
share, yes, and share information. And that's what CES will do.
Yeah.
It will do. And a coordinated entry will help us all be able to have an avenue to where we don't have anybody fall through the cracks. And if they do, they can come back and start all over again. So that's my piece. I'm Hallie, CEO and founder of Retrain the Village. I'm gonna show you a quick picture of me. I didn't get my hair done, COVID.
Well, thank you for doing your
You're
little cameo
welcome.
there. I
And that's
appreciate
not my
the
lipstick, but I have a lot of awards behind me from the Senate and all of that. And this is what I've been doing for years. And it's been kind of lonely out here until I got this email. So I don't feel so
Aw.
all alone no more.
You're not on an island. We're all professionals here trying to help and serve our communities. And that's exactly what I want to sort of recognize, is that, I see a lot of behavioral health systems here. And so that's sort of my next question is, like, what do you guys see as a gap? What is preventing you from serving your clients? Where do you see some of those challenges as a professional in providing those services? Because if we don't really identify the problem, we can't come up with a solution that sort of streamlines all of our processes and efforts. So I turn the table to you. What do you guys see that as?
Hi, this is Selena from Sac County.
Hi,
I
Selena.
actually I supervise 3 licensed counselors who are cited at probation. So we get a referral packet from CDCR.
Great.
For those who have signed ROIs to us, and we wait for that release date and for them to report in.
Excellent.
And once they report in, we try to get them, and if they agree to a mental health assessment, we'll link them to services. The gap that we typically see is because they have no phone or any place to go. That's a huge challenge for us. So what we do is we try to get creative with how to contact them. And if we do get a contact, it takes about 2 to 3 days for that linkage to go to our contracted mental health provider. So that provider then has difficulty locating that individual, because they're, we don't know where they are in the county. So that's been a huge challenge for us.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That kind of correlates directly with Rob. Thank you so much for putting what you put in the system. Yes, everything in CDCR in the prison is documented and shared among all state officials, county parole agents, through what's called the SOM system, the Strategic Offender Management System. And if that system could communicate to the coordinated entry system, and all counties had the coordinated entry system, then we would see a very much so streamlined process and less of a gap in that service. Is there any other thoughts that anyone wants to share? I'm reading still. County Behavioral.
I had a question, Tara. Hi, my name is Angela. I work for the California Coalition for Women Prisoners. I am formerly incarcerated myself. I did 13 years, and I totally understand the post-incarceration syndrome. Not only because I suffer from it myself, but I know a lot of people that were not triple CMS inside and come home, and now we have all these issues. Is there a system in place, especially with a lot of the behavioral health services on board, for people like myself and like yourself that have done a great deal of time inside? We fared fairly well, but coming home, you find that you have these whole new problems that did not exist prior because of things that have happened, the traumas that have happened along the way. So my question is, for people that fit in that long-term category, is there a system in place to assist those folks coming home?
Yeah, so who we partner with, and this is sort of slowly on the up and coming, but it's called the Transitions Clinic Network. And what that is clinicians who are working specifically with formerly incarcerated people, even if they have their own sort of general population that they're serving, right? Lifelong Medical Center is one of them. Now they serve elderly, women, children, they serve everyone just like Kaiser Permanente does, right? But they have a transitions clinic that is unique to serving the needs of formerly incarcerated people so that they can address those that have post-incarceration syndrome, PTSD, depression, anxiety, and all the various different things that we see showing up post-release. And I think that's such a great question that you asked, because we need to see more of these transitions clinics. But I know that if you are a medical provider or a mental health provider, you can become a part of that transitions clinic. I will go ahead and put the link, or I'll have the CARE program send it to you guys after, because you can get your program or your services in that network, and then people will be able to access it. Because I know that we have a strong partnership with it, and our participants do not miss a beat. They have access to the medical care, they have access to the mental health treatments, they get dental, and it's all taken care of right then and there. Thank you, Rob. He's so awesome. I mean, all of it is right there, and it's pretty incredible and amazing. So definitely I encourage that as one
Yeah.
for all of us.
So my second question would be then, do they accept Medi-Cal, or how is that?
They take care of it for you.
Oh,
So if
okay,
you don't
perfect.
have Medi-Cal, if you don't have any type of insurance, they will accept you in because they cannot turn a client away. And then they will set that up for you if you don't already have it in place.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so good to hear. Thank you.
Yes, it was like one of the breakthroughs that we saw a couple of years ago.
Hey,
And we're really proud that that has happened.
Tara, my name's Chris. I'm
Hi,
from
Chris.
Osceola County. Sorry, I'm with other people here. And I'm not trying to get COVID. What different interventions do they do at this transitional housing that most mental health providers wouldn't do? What are some of the different things?
So what I hear you saying is a typical transitional housing program.
The one you
Also,
mentioned.
oh, our program, the Homecoming Project?
Yes.
Oh, great. That's a great question. Yeah, we're absolutely hands-on. So each one of our participants gets a needs assessment, right? Some of them may have higher needs, some of them may have lower needs. The difference is that it's all individualized versus a transitional housing program. You sort of get cattled through whatever their system looks like, whatever they have to offer, that's what you get. Whatever they have, required of you, you have to go through. Meaning, if someone does not have a substance abuse treatment problem, why should they be subjected to taking substance abuse treatment classes? If somebody has a high need for employment readiness, why should they be subjected to taking, other things? So making sure that the services are addressing the needs, making sure that you're getting a clear picture of those needs versus a cookie cutter approach. This is our system. You have to get stuck in it and get provided whatever we have. That's the difference between our program. It's very individualized. We meet our clients where they're at. We know and understand that every person comes home from prison. The only thing that they have in common with someone else that came home from prison is that they came home from prison. All of their needs and their uniqueness is going to be specific, person-centered, it's person-based, right? And everyone has a different threshold to how much they can adapt and be flexible and ebb and flow with the demands of life. Time has a whole new concept. I mean, there's just an array of different things when you start working with individuals that are formerly incarcerated or being formerly incarcerated yourself, and you learn that firsthand, right? We know that we need a program that walks with our participants through their journey.
Okay. It sounds like you have a lot of individuals that really care. You know what I mean? As opposed
Yeah,
to sometimes
absolutely, we care.
a government agency that kind of has that cookie cutter program. and they might not go out of their way to help somebody. The nonprofits seem a little bit better, because actually, to answer or to kind of chime in on that, the gap, what I find is, number one, we don't have housing for them, like once they come out, because we get a lot of, they're considered AB 109, so we house
Yeah.
them at our county jail,
Yeah,
and yeah, they have extra funds for like substance use disorder mostly, but even that's limited. It's horrible. And then on top of that, you lose them because they have all these other issues going on once they get out, whether it's, well, I mean, I think most of those individuals, it's not so much 10 years, but like things change. They have all these other issues that they don't have time to focus and come to these appointments, because what are they going to get out of it? Medication?
yeah, you're very much so right.
Yeah, we lose a lot of them. And then like the addresses, I think somebody else mentioned it, but they're hard to locate. And even the probation officers have a hard time locating them.
This is very true.
So, but thank you for answering my question, Tara.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I'm not sure if post-incarceration syndrome is in the DSM-5. I'm not sure at all. I would have to look into that. Because I got out of sort of so I just FYI, full transparency, I absolutely love being a counselor, but I have way too much empathy. I have countertransference happening, popping off all left and right. Like I need to be a little bit more on the operations side in making sure people are getting their needs met, because I get too passionate. I take the work home. So I sort of stopped geeking out in the DSM-5 a little bit, but I definitely think that you posed a question that I definitely want to look into. Like I said, a lot of the symptoms of post-incarceration syndrome mimic PTSD, anxiety disorder, all those different things. So oftentimes you can bill them as that, even though you know it's stemming from, being released. Yes, and jails do lack a lot of rehabilitation program because they're supposed to be short term. We find that a lot of people that are inside of the jail oftentimes only have maybe a minister or someone from a church group coming in and giving some services or some one-on-one talks, but there's not comprehensive rehabilitative programs inside of the jail system, which can be difficult for individuals that serve, 2 to 5 years in jail. And we see that happening a little bit more and more often taking place. Yep. Any more questions, comments, or statements?
I have a question, Tara. One of the things that I've heard about is the challenge is that these days in COVID era that people are needing to have a COVID test before they're admitted into certain residential or other kinds of housing programs. I wonder if you could speak a little bit if you've seen this and where workarounds people are using to get those tests if they're not getting them out the door from facilities.
Yeah, so CDCR is supposed to test them before they are released. Once a release date is determined, if they're a lifer, once a release date is determined, they do get them tested. However, testing an individual, 7 days before they're released, getting their test results back, sending them with their test results, they have a lot of different steps of navigating and having the potential to get contact of COVID. And so we work with a lot of different organizations in the Bay Area that offer free testing. The Roots Community Health Center is one of them that provides the free COVID testing. And they should be offering some COVID testing throughout all the counties, but I know that some counties are experiencing an insecurity for COVID testing and having that free COVID testing as well. It's really important, though, to note that a lot of these free testing sites will not test you unless you have an ID. And so the challenge with an individual who's not tied to a program is sort of stuck in the wind again, because they're a ghost and they don't have the support behind either being in a program or having a caseworker or having a parole agent even identify who they are so that they can get that COVID testing. So that's definitely something we need to work on and resolve as well for individuals that are just being thrown out into the community that wrote a liquor store address down on their pre-parole plans. Yeah, thanks, Rob. So we're currently in Alameda County with the Homecoming Project. We're scaling right now into Contra Costa County. We're getting a lot of demands from Los Angeles County, so we have that on the horizon. We were really grateful to receive a $2.5 million award from the Enterprise Housing Affordability Breakthrough Challenge last year, and that is allowing us to place about 120 people across Alameda and Contra Costa counties in the next few years. So we're really excited. That also is going to be giving us the ability to put about $600,000 into our local economy, so into the homes of homeowners to create that financial stability. In addition to that, we're going to be walking away with a toolkit. So we really want to be able to have this program replicated throughout the nation. We're not just thinking California. We want other CBOs and other organizations to be able to rebuild this program from the ground up with our support. So we really have some high plans to sort of create more community-based programs, because we know better than anyone else how to support our program. Because we have a lot of private funding, that allows us to really be individualized in that care approach. Versus if we take a lot of state or government contract funding, we'll be restricted on who we can serve, how we can serve them, when we can serve them, and how much we can serve them. And we want to make sure that we're getting people what they need. Yeah, great question. Our hosts are selected first by submitting an application. So they have to be interested and willing. Then we begin inspecting their homes. We get to know them, sort of like do a personality assessment, do a readiness assessment. Our housing coordinator goes out to their home, meets them, does an interview so that we can really understand some of what it is that they want to do, some of their community efforts, what motivates them. And then we begin to share participant applications with them. So we have complete transparency. We have a real strong screening process. We rely on CDCR's own risk assessment tools so that we can get a really good picture of who our participants are. Then we have a parole support line. So we're getting to know our participants before we even share their application with available hosts. The host then can set up a call to meet the participant. And only if both parties agree to live with one another does the housing match take place. So we don't just drop anyone off into someone's home. They actually choose each other, and that's probably why we're so successful. It's our secret sauce. But I think that giving people agency is the way that they're going to be most successful. Giving them their voice back, having them speak on what works for them, what doesn't work for them, is the best way that we've been seeing our participants and our hosts make successful choices throughout our program.
I have a question that's kind of tailing off of what Haley mentioned earlier about when people are released, that oftentimes the presentation that you see is very quiet and reserved. And so one may not know from the outside if there's our mental health challenges going on. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about when the mental health challenge escalates to a crisis. I was just chatting with someone the other day who works in a needle exchange program down in Los Angeles and was talking about the high rates of overdose that follow release. And it's, you know, with overdose, it's always hard to know what was going on, if there was an intentional self-harming behavior, or if it was, you know, any number of other things going on. I wonder if you could talk about when it's a crisis mental health moment and it's kind of visible, and what resources might be available. And I ask this question because I imagine that for folks who have been in a facility where there were really high rates of COVID, they're also maybe going back into a community where there are also really high rates of COVID, and their family members might have been, and other community members might have been telling them if they're in contact about high rates. So it's like the existing mental health challenges are probably going to be higher for folks, as they are for pretty much everyone these days.
Yeah. So thank you for that question. That was what when I was counseling, I was doing the crisis intervention caseloads. And what we found is that individuals inside of prison, first and foremost, if you've never been in prison, you're not going to really understand that it's really a lot of sensory deprivation that takes place inside of there. So when you come home, on top of, you know, adapting, on top of the euphoria of excitement, all emotions are heightened. Everything you can possibly imagine is heightened. Not to mention your tolerance has sort of went down a little bit when it came to drug use, right? So it's going to take less drugs to get you the same high that you either was experiencing before prison or while you were in prison. Because let's be honest, the drugs in prison are probably very watered down and very not as concentrated as they are out here, because people out here have been continuing to use drugs. So it has become more concentrated. But in related to some crises that we may see out here, there's oftentimes an event that may take place, and that event could be extremely small, something as small as not being able to get into your inbox for your email address because you don't know that technology, and it's frustrating, and you have a breakthrough and you have a breakdown. And so just really being able to make sure an individual has a person they can call, having someone that they can be vulnerable with, and then having that person have some connection to what they're going through, meaning they've been through that, they've been there, done that. This is why I'm pro mentor programs for individuals that are formerly incarcerated, because leaning on that is the best way for an individual to establish their own support network, right? It's important for us to say, this is not, it's important for us to not say, this is who you have, this is what you're getting, but for them to have a plethora of support options and then them to choose what works for themselves. Yeah, there's a question from Jennifer about how many participants are placed with a host. It all depends upon the host. If the host has experience, for example, if the host has no experience at all working with has never cohabitated with anyone, has no experience with the criminal justice system or the reentry population, what we would do is we would let that host house that first participant. At 90 days, we will assess how that's going based upon our progress notes and things that we're going to look at. If they are feeling more confident and we see that they are doing excellent with their one participant, we'll go ahead and let them take on another participant. But we have some hosts that are so savvy at this. They love this work. They love helping other people, that they're supporting 3-4 participants at a time because they have the space too. How do you do a house match when matching roommates? Yeah, so we can do several different ways. If the participant is already in the community, we have more of our experienced hosts asking the participant to come to the house so they can see the digs. They want to see the house, they can get a vibe for it, they can feel their way, they can look at the space that they would be staying at, they can talk about house rules, how things are ran, things not to do, things to do. And get a real feel for it. If the person is still in custody, which oftentimes this are our participants that we've been taking, is they will call us, our support line, which accepts collect calls, and then we will connect them with their host and they get a chance to meet each other. We now see that CDCR is offering visiting, video visiting. So we're going to be presenting that as an option as well.
I am aware that we are getting towards the end of this hour. And so I just want to invite, if we probably have time for one more question, if somebody, here we go from Angela, just for clarification, most hosts are in Northern California?
Yeah, for right now, they're in Northern California, but you know what, honestly, we continue to get more applications from hosts that are just like, oh, dead smack, I'm ready to host. And I'm like, but we're not in Virginia yet, and so we have to talk to individuals oftentimes because they're ready to get this started. And they're just like, I want to help. And so we see a lot of individuals, number one, if they know about the criminal justice system and they know about the challenges faced by reentry populations, those individuals are motivated to participate. We also see social justice community members that oftentimes want to participate as hosts, and also individuals from the faith-based communities are coming forward and wanting to help. So you can see some of the values sort of align with each other. Just believing about forgiveness, redemption, and second chances sort of be the common theme among our hosts. And so, I'm just so honored to be able to be a part of this program and to see how far we can take it and how big our impact can be in the community. But I think during COVID-19, it's been absolutely heartbreaking, but I'll say this, we have experienced, our takeaway has been a strength we've been strengthening our partnerships with other CBOs and other service providers. And that has made our program even more effective for each and one of our participants, where it's like, I can't think of that commercial when they say, oh, we have a button for that? Or, oh, we have a something for that. Anything our participant needs, we're like, oh, we have a partner for that, and I think that building out our partnerships is what makes us even more effective in serving this population. This is definitely what I would love to see. All of these different pieces here. I talked a little bit about lifelong medical care, highlighted CDCRs, Mental Health America of California, and our California Department of Healthcare Services, which I know is all on the line. Like, I want us to all have a way that all of our services and all of our efforts here are just streamlined. I know I talked a little bit about Transitions Clinic, and I think that that is one solution that we can definitely work towards. Every department having a Transitions Clinic, having specific individuals trained and specialized in serving this population is pretty much my dream. Maybe it's my dream for this population, for sure.
And we do hope you'll stay in touch with us, the CARE TA Center. Here's our email address, phone number, website, and please do sign up for our CARE newsletter. We welcome hearing from you and hope you will stay in touch with us.